My mother is dead. This is the story of how a brilliant doctor became a monster and how only a mother's love could make him human again. The worst part, Mama Chinyere continued, her voice full of pain, is what happened when she went to visit him this week. She was so excited. Sister, she had saved money for months to make that trip. She bought new clothes, the first new clothes she had owned in 3 years, because she wanted to look nice when she saw her son. What happened when she got there? The other women asked. Mama Chinyere's voice broke as she told the story. He denied her. In front of all his colleagues and his girlfriend, he said he didn't know her. He told them his mother was dead. He called security to throw her out like she was a beggar. The women gasped in horror and anger. What kind of child does that to the woman who gave birth to him? Mama Ngozi asked. The kind of child who forgets that his mother's prayers were the foundation of everything he achieved, the third woman replied. Outside the room, Emeka was sobbing silently, his tears falling like rain on the hospital floor. Every word he spoke was like a knife in his heart, but he couldn't walk away. He needed to hear this. He needed to understand what he had done. She walked back to the bus station crying. Mama Chinyere continued. People saw her stumbling through the streets like a mad woman talking to herself. They said she kept saying, I failed him. I wasn't good enough to be his mother. That's when the accident happened. Yes, she was so heartbroken and confused that she didn't see the motorcycle coming. The driver was drunk and hit her, then ran away like a coward. But the strangest thing, Mama Chinyere said, lowering her voice, is what she told me the night before she left for Lagos. She said she had a dream that something was going to change. She said she felt like God was telling her to stop praying for her son and start praying for herself. What did she mean? She said, maybe I have been holding on too tightly. Maybe I need to let God handle my son in his own way. That was the first time in 23 years that I heard Kemi say she might stop praying for that boy. The women fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts about the tragedy of a mother's love being rejected so cruelly. Outside, Emeka collapsed into a chair in the hallway, his whole body shaking with grief and realization. For the first time, he understood that his mother's love hadn't been a burden to escape from. It had been a shield protecting him. Her prayers hadn't been empty words. They had been the source of his strength, his success, his protection. And now, lying in that bed unconscious and broken, she could no longer pray for him. The hedge of protection that had surrounded his life for 28 years was gone. Without his mother's prayers, he was facing the world, naked and defenseless for the first time in his life. As this terrible understanding washed over him, Emeka heard one of the women inside say something that made his blood freeze in his veins. The doctor said her brain injury is very severe. Even if she wakes up, she might not remember anything. She might not remember her son, her life, anything. All those years of sacrifice and love, they might all be erased from her mind forever. Emeka realized he was about to lose not just his mother, but any chance of her ever forgiving him, ever knowing how sorry he was, ever hearing him say the words he should have said years ago. The boy who had spent his whole life running away from his mother finally understood that he might have run too far to ever find his way back. Dr. Emeka couldn't sleep that night. He sat in his expensive apartment, surrounded by all the things his mother's sacrifices had helped him buy, and felt like the poorest man in Lagos. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother lying in that hospital bed and heard the voices of the village women talking about her prayers and fasting. At 3 a.m., he made a decision that would change everything. He drove to Central Hospital and found the night nurse in charge of the ICU. Excuse me, he said quietly. The patient in room 7, Mama Kemi, I need to take over her care. The nurse looked at him suspiciously. Are you family? We've been trying to reach her son for days. Emeka's voice came out as barely a whisper. I am her son. The nurse stared at others with pity. All of them saw him differently now. Zarah confronted him on the third day. Emeka, I don't understand. You told me your mother was dead. You built our entire relationship on lies. How can I trust you now? Zarah, please, I can explain. Explain what? That you were ashamed of the woman who raised you. What does that say about your character? She pulled off her engagement ring and placed it on his desk. I can't marry someone who would deny his own mother. My father was right to be concerned about you. As Zarah walked out of his life, Emeka felt another piece of his old world crumble away. But strangely, he felt relief more than sadness. The lies that had built his perfect life were finally falling apart, and underneath them, he was finding something he had lost years ago, the truth of who he really was. Every day, the village women continued to come and sit with Mama Kemi. Emeka began to join them, listening as they told stories about his mother's kindness and sacrifice. Each story was like a dagger to his heart, but also like medicine healing a wound he didn't know he had. Doctor, Mama Chinyere said to him one afternoon, your mother used to tell us that you were the most important thing in her life. She would say, everything I do is for Emeka. Every prayer I pray is for Emeka. Every breath I take is for Emeka. She really said that? Emeka asked, his voice thick with tears. Every day for 23 years. Even when you stopped visiting, even when you stopped calling, even when you broke her heart, she never stopped loving you. She would tell us, my son is busy saving lives. He doesn't have time for an old woman like me, but I understand. I'm proud that he is helping people. Emeka buried his face in his hands and wept like a child. On the 7th day, something miraculous happened. Mama Kemi's eyes fluttered open. Mama, Emeka cried, jumping up from his chair beside her bed. Mama, can you hear me? But when Mama Kemi's eyes focused on his face, there was no recognition there. The brain injury had stolen her memories, just as the doctors had warned it might. Who are you? She asked weakly. Emeka felt his heart break all over again. I'm your son, Mama. I'm Emeka. She stared at him with confusion and fear. I don't remember you. I don't remember anything. The doctors explained that her memory loss might be temporary, or it might be permanent. There was no way to know. The important thing, Dr. Samuel told Emeka, is that she's alive and her vital signs are improving. Her body is healing, even if her mind is still confused. Over the following weeks, Emeka spent every free moment trying to help his mother remember their life together. He brought photo albums from the village, told her stories about her childhood, played her favorite songs. He described how she had worked 3 jobs to send him to school, how she had sacrificed everything for his education. I don't remember any of that, she would say sadly. I'm sorry, I wish I could remember you. But slowly, gradually, something began to change. Even though Mama Kemi couldn't remember the past, she began to feel comfortable with this gentle doctor who visited her every day. She began to look forward to his stories, to trust his kind face, to feel safe when he was near. Doctor, she said one day, I may not remember you, but my heart feels warm when you're here. You feel familiar, like someone I once loved very much. It was then that Emeka realized God was giving him a second chance. His mother might not remember the son who had denied her, but she was meeting, for the first time, the son he was becoming, grateful, humble, and desperate, to show her the love she had always deserved. 3 months later, Mama Kemi had recovered enough to leave the hospital. Her body was healed, but her memories of the past were still gone. However, something beautiful was happening. She was building new memories with the son she couldn't remember, but was learning to love all over again. Emeka had made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He sold his expensive apartment, his fancy car, and everything else he owned to pay for his mother's medical bills. He moved into a simple 2-bedroom flat and brought his mother home to live with him. Emeka, His former colleague, Dr. Williams, said, "You're throwing away your career. You could have been the top pediatric surgeon in Lagos. Why are you doing this?" "Because," Emeka replied simply, "I'm finally learning what success really means." Every morning, Emeka would wake up early and prepare breakfast for his mother. He would help her with her exercises to strengthen her body after the long hospital stay. He would read to her, tell her stories, and slowly teach her about the world she had forgotten. "Tell me again about this woman who worked 3 jobs," Mama Kemi would ask, pointing to an old photograph of herself that Emeka had found in her village home. "She was the strongest woman in the world," Emeka would say. "She washed clothes until her hands bled. She sowed corn in the hot sun until her feet swelled. She cleaned clinics until her back ached. And she did it all because she loved her son more than life itself." "She must have been very tired," Mama Kemi would say softly. "She was, but she never complained, not once." And her son, what happened to him? This was always the hardest part. Her son forgot how much she loved him. He became successful and proud, and he thought he didn't need her anymore. He hurt her very badly. That's sad. Didn't he know that without her love, he would have nothing? "No," Emeka would say, tears in his eyes. He didn't understand that until it was almost too late. As the weeks passed, villagers began coming to visit them in Lagos. Mama Chinyere, Mama Ngozi, and others would bring food and news from home. They were amazed by the change in Emeka. "This is not the same boy who denied his mother," Mama Chinyere whispered to her friend. "This one has a humble heart." "Maybe," Mama Ngozi replied, watching as Emeka patiently helped his mother eat her lunch. "Sometimes, God breaks us down so he can build us up the right way." What the village women didn't know was that Emeka's old life had completely fallen apart. He had lost his prestigious position at the hospital because of his long absence caring for his mother. His wealthy friends had abandoned him when his money ran out. The business investments that had once seemed so important now seemed meaningless. But something amazing was happening in place of what he had lost. Emeka discovered that taking care of his mother brought him more joy than all his former successes combined. When she smiled at him over their simple breakfast, he felt richer than when he had owned expensive cars. When she held his hand while he read to her, he felt more accomplished than when he had received medical awards. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset from their small balcony, Mama Kemi said something that changed everything. "Dr. Emeka, I want to tell you something." "What is it, Mama?" "I've been having dreams. In these dreams, I see a little boy who looks like you. In the dreams, I'm younger and I'm working very hard. The little boy is crying, and I pick him up and tell him everything will be okay." Emeka's heart began to race. "What else do you see in these dreams?" "I see myself praying. I'm kneeling by a small bed and I'm asking God to bless this little boy. I'm asking God to make him successful and happy. I pray for hours until my knees hurt, but I don't stop because I love the little boy so much." Tears began to fall down Emeka's cheeks. "Mama, do you know who that little boy is?" Mama Kemi looked at him with eyes that suddenly seemed clearer, more focused. "In my heart, I think it's you. I think you're my son, and I think I loved you more than anything in the world." "Yes, Mama," Emeka whispered. "You loved me more than your own life. You sacrificed everything for me, and I was too proud and foolish to see it. But I can see it now," she said softly. "Even though I can't remember the past, I can see in your eyes that you love me. And somehow, my heart remembers loving you back." That night, for the first time in months, Mama Kemi knelt by her bed and prayed. But this time, she didn't just pray for her son's success. She prayed for his happiness, his peace, and his understanding of what really mattered in life. "God," she whispered, "I don't remember the past, but I can feel in my heart that You have given me a second chance with my son. Help me to love him well in this new life you have given us." And as his mother prayed in the next room, Emeka felt something shift in his life. The disasters that had been following him for months suddenly stopped. A new hospital offered him a position, NC, not as prestigious as his old job, but honest work that would allow him to care for his mother. An old friend called to offer him a small investment opportunity that would help rebuild his savings. But most importantly, Emeka felt peace in his heart. For the first time in years, he was no longer running from his past or chasing after status and wealth. He was simply living in the truth. He was a son who loved his mother, and she was a mother who loved him back. 1 year later, Emeka and his mother returned to their village for a visit. When the villagers saw them together, they could hardly believe their eyes. The proud, arrogant boy who had once denied his mother was now a humble man who held her arm carefully as they walked, who spoke to her with gentleness and respect, who introduced her to everyone as "my mother, the strongest woman I know." What happened to change him? People whispered. Love, Mama Chinyere said simply. Love and suffering taught him what pride could never teach. That evening, as they sat outside their old house watching the children play, Mama Kemi turned to her son. "Emeka, I want to tell you something." "What is it, Mama?" "My memory is coming back, slowly, but it's coming. And I remember now how much pain I caused you by being poor, by embarrassing you." "Mama, no. Let me finish. I remember, and I forgive you completely. You were young and afraid, but look at what God has done. He took our broken story and made it beautiful again." Emeka took his mother's weathered hands in his and kissed them gently. "Mama, you were never something to be ashamed of. You were always my greatest blessing. I was just too blind to see it. And now? Now I see clearly. You are not just my mother. You are my hero, my teacher, my greatest treasure. I thank God every day that He gave me a second chance to love you properly." As the sun set over the village where his story began, Emeka understood what his mother had meant all those years ago when she called him her garden. Love, like a garden, requires patience, sacrifice, and faithfulness to grow. His mother had planted seeds of love with her prayers and watered them with her tears. The harvest had taken many years to come, but now it was blooming more beautifully than either of them had ever imagined. The hand that had fed him, the heart that had prayed for him, the love that had never given up on him, these were not things to be forgotten or denied. They were the foundation of everything good in his life. And finally, he was worthy to be called her son. 5 years later, Dr. Emeka Okafor ran a small but successful clinic in his home village. People came from far and wide, not just for his medical skills, but because they knew he was a doctor who understood both suffering and love. Every morning, he would wake up and prepare breakfast for his mother, who lived with him in a comfortable house behind the clinic. Every evening, they would sit together and talk about their day. And every night, Mama Kemi would kneel by her bed and pray for her son, not for his success or wealth, but for his continued growth in wisdom and love. Visitors to their home would often comment on the obvious love and respect between mother and son. "How did you raise such a good son?" they would ask Mama Kemi. She would smile and pat Emeka's hand. "I didn't raise a good son," she would say. "God gave me a stubborn son who had to learn the hard way. But sometimes, the most beautiful gardens are the ones that grow after the hardest storms." And Emeka would add, "The greatest wisdom I ever learned was this: the hand that feeds you should never be forgotten, and the love that raises you should always be honored. Everything else is just decoration." This story teaches us that a mother's love is the most powerful force in the world, that success without gratitude is meaningless, and that it's never too late to honor those who sacrificed for us. Most importantly, it shows us that God can take our worst mistakes and turn them into our greatest lessons if we are humble enough to learn.